New running back coach Cory Patterson is already helping break the old acquisition mold in Stillwater, America, and 2024 is now in the rearview mirror as the windshield looks much brighter for 2025.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we get to roll right into the conversation of 2024 in review, 2025. We are very thankful for. There's a reason the windshield is significantly bigger than the rearview mirror, but we do have some things to review in 2024 because it wasn't all bad, and it does give us the opportunity to be extremely thankful for the new age that is moving through in 2025. First of all, Happy New Year to you all. Football, we'll start there. It was our worst conference record since 1994, which is the last time we went over. 3-9 is pretty indicative of a bad season, especially for the Oklahoma State standards that Mike Gundy has set. Anything less than 8 wins is pretty disappointing in Stillwater, America. The benefit, though, is out with the old, in with the new, and we have an entirely new staff. The only players that really got to hang around was Greg Brown got upgraded from an analyst to a DB's coach. And, of course, we retained Sean Snyder because special teams wasn't a big issue this previous season, other than the fact we didn't utilize Hudson, but I'll get off that point. We now know with the new staff, things are entirely different, even from the acquisition recruiting standpoint, which we'll cover a little bit later on in segment 3. Basketball, end of the Mike Boynton era, which saw 5-star after 5-star after 5-star come to Stillwater, but only a handful of them ended up being ultra successful in Stillwater. Enter the Steve Lutz era. And Calvin Sampson just did a little press conference about Steve Lutz that I implore all of you to go check out. And he talked about how this is one of the most physical teams as far as effort is concerned that he's played. He understands what Steve Lutz is trying to build, and we're a very pesky team that just won't go away. He also mentioned that we are going to take down some giants that we're not supposed to in that arena whenever Lutz kind of gets things rocking and rolling. So it's good to see that we have a new age in college basketball in Stillwater. And Steve Lutz is a proven winner and a program rebuilder. He's been at 2 different destinations. He took both of them as a head coach to the NCAA tournament. It's only a matter of time. He needs to get some shooters, but it is possible to bring Oklahoma State basketball back to where it used to be under Steve Lutz. The Cowgirls, J.C. Hoyt, we had a very down year. Year 1, she makes the tournament out of nowhere. Year 2, it was really a season of playing with a short roster. Right? I went to a couple games last season where we legitimately only had 7 players to rotate, partially because of injury and partially because of some issues that we had, losing a couple transfers before the season really even got off the ground. And now she's responded very, very quickly with a 12-1 record this season. And they just took down mighty Baylor, Jasmine Players, old school. We'll talk about that in a later episode. But, yeah, we're thankful for the year that J.C. Hoyt has started with now because it's a rinsing out of the 2024 year. Baseball, just not acceptable. I think everybody can agree with that. Josh Holliday, I hope, would agree with that as well. You must get to the Super Regionals. I'm not even saying you have to host the Supers, although that is precisely why Obrate was built, for Super Regionals to be hosted there every single year. That is the expectation. We have the talent to get it done. Josh Holliday needs to make it happen. 2024 softball, there's no way we can really complain, right? We made it back to the World Series in Oklahoma City. We had a really good opportunity to compete for a Big 12 title. We did take down OU for the first time in almost 2 decades, and we fell short, right? Just there at the very end, Oklahoma City with some injuries and some missing depth pieces, especially on the mound, is what caused us to perform a little lackluster at the World Series. But nonetheless, it appears as though we actually might go 4 deep at pitcher now. Last season, we seemed to be able to go 3 deep, but turns out Kyra Aycock was dealing with an injury most of the season that we weren't really privy to. Wrestling looked promising, right? We started the season pretty dominant. From a points perspective, not necessarily as much, but we were winning. We were undefeated up until the last half of the year. I think we lost our second to last duel of the year, and that was it. We rolled that into nationals, and it really did not live up to expectations. We died kind of late. Now we enter the Magic Man. That really shocked the world. Everybody anticipated Tyler Caldwell would take over. It made the most amount of sense. We were all okay with it. And then we shocked the world by hiring David Taylor away from Penn State. And then David Taylor takes an Avengers style of staff and brings it with him to Stillwater. And you're already seeing the dividends of that pay off right now. Women's wrestling, it's very interesting. I can't say I know a whole lot about it other than the fact that Isaac Olenek, former Cowboy, really talented wrestler, is in charge of that. So it's definitely worth paying attention to. Tennis, never watched any tennis. Really, I watched a little bit growing up, right? Serena versus Venus, that style of situation, but never really got into it. I got into it this year when we won the ITA National Championship. We rolled that into the NCAA season, and we just fell a little bit short. We had a massive injury in the national title match that really set us back. But this is going to be another great season. From what I've been told, Cowgirl tennis should be kind of back at the top once again. Soccer made a good run, had a pretty good season, fell short in the Big 12 title game after coming back in an epic first-round W. We fell short in the second round of the Big 12 tournament. That's okay. The recruiting looks to be upticking once again in soccer, so we should be back in the podium area here pretty soon. Golf, much like baseball, is just not acceptable for both. Cowboy golf fell outside the top 25 for the first time in a long time. We have started 2025 well. We just won a tournament recently. So maybe that will be the momentum that we need to catapult Cowboy golf back where it's supposed to be. Women's golf was better, but we still need to see a little bit more trophies, right? That is what it is. Speaking of trophies, track and cross country. The track and field squad was their best team of all time, or the second best team of all time in Stillwater, America. We finished the season top 25, made a good account for ourselves in the Big 12 title. And then the cross country, we had the opportunity to fight for another national title. We won the Natty last year, which we have to be thankful for, right? That's part of this in review. We did win a Natty, but we didn't really have it at the end of the day. We didn't have the ability to take over BYU. Congratulations to them in the Big 12 for bringing home back-to-back national titles in cross country. But Brian Massow is worth every single millisecond of watching this team run. He's only a sophomore, so he'll be back next season. This season should be extremely exciting as well. I got to give a shout-out, massive shout-out to Friends University, winning their first playoff game in school history, which I wasn't aware of, winning the KCAC title, shattering records all over the place. And I do know that a significant number of D3s, JUCOs, D2s have tried to lure Coach Terry Harrison away from Friends University, because when you're shattering records and you're rushing for almost 6,000 yards in one season, of course, people are going to want you to leave Friends. But he's a Wichita dude. He grew up kind of idolizing that campus. He's here to stay, and they made an epic run. I had a phenomenal time covering them on the sidelines in the first round W of the playoffs. So I cannot wait to catch some more games next season. Good job, Friends University, Coach Terry Harrison, for making that a destination place. When you're getting guys to decommit from D2s and D3s to come to Friends University from Texas, from Arkansas, that is a massive ordeal. Don't know how he's doing it. Don't care how he's doing it. Just know that he is doing it, and I'm thankful for it. Speaking of being thankful, we got to be thankful for Athletic Director Chad Weiberg, not only for the hire of Steve Lutz, not only for the massive shakeup and hiring of David Taylor, but also getting Mike Gundy to understand that this next football season was paramount to changing everything up. I think the same could be said for Dr. Casey Strum, the president of Oklahoma State, and the Board of Regents. Mike Gundy deserves some thankfulness as well, because at the end of the day, it looked kind of shaky there for a few hours after the deadline, but he found a way to come through and make it happen. So thank you to Mike Gundy for being willing to kind of take a little bit of a haircut financially to make this thing make the most amount of sense. Danielle, the donors were a big part of this as well. So we got to give a shout out to them, not only for all of this kind of transpiring for football, but being willing to have guys step forward for David Taylor, Steve Lutz. And NIL last season, although football didn't go swimmingly, we did get guys paid like Alan Bowman and Ollie Gordon, Nick Martin, Colin Oliver, Kendall Daniels. Those individuals got money. And now those dudes, most of them, are going to take their talents to the NFL. So we have to be thankful for Ollie Gordon, Brennan Presley. Softball, I love what Lexi Kilfoyle was able to provide, and the fact that she's coming back is big. Nolan McClain offered us a lot. I know Rock Reggio graduated a little bit further back, but I got to give a shout out to Rock Reggio, my son's favorite player for Christmas. He got a autographed Rock Reggio card and a Rock Reggio jersey. I also got to be thankful to Brian Nardo and Justin Gordon and Dan Hammerschmidt. The relationships and sending recruits and things of that nature were absolutely massive to my career, right? So it sucks that you guys are gone, but I do love having new benefits at other colleges now. Basketball, Bryce Thompson could have, and some would argue should have, taken the high road, a.k.a. taken his talents elsewhere. Happy that he decided to stay loyal and true in Stillwater, America. Same could be said for Dayton Fix. Not only is he wrestling, trying to get an Olympic medal, trying to make some things happen internationally, but he's also in charge of the RTC program. So getting the junior wrestlers, the younger wrestlers, to kind of come up and filter to Oklahoma State. It's already happening. Thank you, Dayton Fix. Trey Rucker had a big season. Nick Martin, Colin Oliver. And I even got to be thankful for Alan Bowman, not necessarily for 2024, but more so for 2023. Talon Edwards, got to give a shout out. If Rock Reggio is the bee's knees for Cowboy baseball in my son's eyes, Talon Edwards is that in softball for my daughter. I got to give a shout out to the old DLHS crew. It did kind of die off because we started inviting way too many people, but it was in existence, and it was really cool to have conversations with people that have different connections, whether it be players or coaches or donors. That crew has been a lot of fun to work with. Reagan Keaton, Willie Foosball, Pistol Peter, Pistol Rick, Oshu Zach, Oklahoma State Raccoon, Poke Nation. If you're looking to get on a Twitter space, I know I used to do them a lot in the beginning. Poke Nation's the dude to kind of make it happen now. Jake, Logan, you take really good notes. I know Logan catches a hard time because he is very, very overly emotional, but I do kind of pay the dude to take notes of basketball games and wrestling events and things of that nature if I can't watch or attend, and he does a phenomenal job. I appreciate that. Ryan, superhero at every single game, darn near rocking the cape. Appreciate you. Kirby, Christy, Jerry, Luana, Lisa, Tatum, Sarah, Leon, you know who you are. Deb, Terry, Kyle C., of course, my old school buddies, Jason, Trent, Shannon, and Hayden, a.k.a. Creek. Lastly, you guys, the regulators, we're over 530,000 views on the channel. We're pretty close to getting that 2,500 subs. We've got over 4,100 followers on X. And I think a large part of the success of this show that we do have is because of you guys. And, of course, the guests that we've had throughout the course of the last year, like Lyric and Justin Kirkland, Chris Robinson. We've got Garrett Rangel. We've got guys like Tatum Bell, Royal Capel. Then you have Jalen Beckley, and we have a lot more to come that you will want to be tuned in for, because that's what we're going to kind of fill the coffers with this offseason, is more guests, more information about the recruiting and things of that nature. And then lastly, I got to give out the awards. We do this every year. Well, we've been doing this for 2 years. So this is the second year of awards. We have the Weak Sauce and the Big Doofus Award. The Weak Sauce Award for 2024 on this show goes to Arkansas offensive lineman number 55, Fernando Carmona. I know he's come out and apologized for stomping on the ankle of the Texas Tech player. It stinks because I like Arkansas. I had a great time whenever we played them earlier this season. They were phenomenal on this show. If I were to give a team or a fan base an award for helping this show the most, it would be Arkansas. But that move was absolutely weak sauce and unacceptable. So he gets that award. The Big Doofus Award goes to Mark Harlan, the Utah athletic director, for coming out on the field and calling out the refs and everything for the Holy War. It was a bad look. He did get fined $40K, which was adequate. And then if we're going to have a baby Doofus Award, I'm not saying we are, but if we were, it would maybe go to Brett Yormark for finding Arizona State fans for rushing the field after winning a Big 12 title game. I mean, come on, man. Finding Mark Harlan for getting a little loose-lipped and booty hurt about the Holy War, that's one thing. But finding the fan base, or Arizona State, for the fan base being excited about them winning a Big 12 title, come on. That's a little much. It's a little much, Mr. Brett Yormark. But what is not a little much is getting the right tickets, ladies and gentlemen. Oklahoma State Cowboy football in 2025 is destined to be a little bit better than 2024. But if you don't have the tickets to get there, it might be a little problematic. If you don't have tickets to Oklahoma State, Oregon, now is your opportunity to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, game time is the bee's knees. And with the 12-team playoff already here, it offers a lot of incredible excitement and experiences that can kind of bring all the fans together. The excitement of the last playoffs was pretty cool, but this 12-team edition makes it much, much more enjoyable for everybody to get in on. Game Time has a new feature called the Game Time Picks that makes it easier for you to get tickets for events in your area. It filters out all the fluffy stuff and shows you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of minutes and thousands of tickets. You can use Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming game, especially if you're looking to go to Eugene, Oregon. Browsing through the deals is an absolute breeze. You're going to find great value on all the seats from venues all across the country. The super deal in particular is what's going to stand out as the best value for your particular event. You got to love that you can see the panoramic seat view in the app before you purchase, so there's no hooliganry of getting put in the wrong section, wrong seat, wrong place. It happens. It's happened to me. The one on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee, it gives you the best peace of mind in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of you buying any tickets. This isn't just about sports, music, comedy, and theater is also available to you as well. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But make sure you create that account and redeem that code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today because it is last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. From Game Time to a new time in the running back room for Stillwater, Oklahoma. Out of all the coaching mix-ups and shake-ups and things that transpired in this previous season, I don't think anyone would argue that the biggest surprise was the fact that running back coach John Wozniak was asked to take his talents elsewhere, and we did bring in Cory Patterson, who's been all over the country. Whenever it pertains to John Wozniak, though, it was, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Let's just call it what it is. If there was any coaches that seemed to be safe, it was John Wozniak and Dan Hammerschmidt. So, of course, it was surprising to hear the safeties coach, Dan Hammerschmidt, was asked to kind of move on. But it was even more surprising and somewhat frustrating to hear that John Wozniak is taking his talents elsewhere. Because right now you have Justice Hill, you have Chuba Hubbard, you have Jalen Warren. Now Ollie Gordon's going to be a draft pick. You have all of these guys that were all under John Wozniak. Was he a little rough around the edges? Yeah, probably, but so is Todd Grantham. Todd Grantham's definitely going to be rough around the edges because he brings that NFL, SEC pedigree with him. No nonsense, right? You have to get it done. You have to live up to a massive expectation. And now we have that out of Cory Patterson in the running back room. Now, Cory Patterson is no slouch. He's also coached wide receivers. Most recently, he was responsible for the emergence of Deion Burks, having almost a 700-yard season, 20-plus touchdowns, and setting himself up for a phenomenal NFL career. But the running back room is getting an upgrade to some degree here. Now, is that going to mean that he's going to live up to the current expectations, which are putting running backs in the NFL? If you go to Oklahoma State, wide receiver and running back are the two primary positions that we know if you come here, you're going to have a pretty good shot at getting the opportunity in the league. And now we know from a running back room what we have coming back. Trent Allen, Rodney Fields, Sesi Vailahi, and now we have Jaden Allen Hendricks. Plus, you have a new iteration of kind of young guys that are getting ready to filter on through as well. So with the talented running back room that we have, and Ollie Gordon taking his talents onto likely the professional level and being a high draft pick, he most recently produced almost a 1,700-yard season in Illinois out of Chase Brown. who was a finalist for the Doak Walker Award. It's funny, our Doak Walker Award, our first ever Doak Walker Award is leaving, but now we have a coach that has some of that familiarity. If you go back, he has sent a few different guys to the NFL from the running back position and a couple even at the wide receiver position. He had a freshman running back that had a couple 200-yard games recently as well. So the developmental side is there. The no-nonsense side might be the most fun thing about this particular hire. He's not going to deal with the fluff. He's not going to deal with the craziness. You're going to have to show up, work, be on time, bust your hump, bust your tail, be able to fight through adversity, whether it be injuries, right? Because there's a difference between playing injured and playing hurt. And sometimes you got to figure that out. It's difficult for young dudes to figure it out, yet somehow still Rodney Fields and Sesi Vailahe has found early playing time, and even Trent Howland did previously at Indiana. This running back room has high expectations. Now, what iteration of the offense are we going to run? That'll be the question. Is it going to be more zone blocking schemed? Is it going to be more traditional? Are we going to go with the traditional backfield? Are we going to have some 30 personnel? That is something that Brendan Marion is kind of famous for. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But nonetheless, the expectations from the running back coach is to produce dudes who get into the league. I think we all know we've got a few of those individuals that are good enough to do so. If you want to talk about Justice Hill, I think Rodney Fields' game is pretty similar. I mean, you might have to go back to like a Dontrell Savage or a Kendall Hunter to get the right replica, but it's pretty close. Trent Howland, I've talked to him multiple times about being the next Chris Carson in Stillwater, America, and one of the biggest differences is it took Chris Carson about halfway through his senior year before he finally embraced his running style. And that embracement of his running style is what made him so successful in the NFL. Trent Howland can have an equal-sized emergence as a Cowboy in Stillwater pretty soon. And then, of course, you have the lightning packages with Sesi Vailahe, who has a very similar running style to Jaylen Warren, who came up with the same coach as Jaylen Warren, the same program as Jaylen Warren, and mimics his game kind of like Jaylen Warren without stuttering like I just did. This is a big deal, and Cory Patterson is a big get. The running back room is stoked to have this dude in there because you have to replace a legend with somebody that's equally as able to get guys into the league, and Cory Patterson has shown the ability to do that at multiple positions. So this seems like a pretty decent transition. Speaking of transitions, it's almost time to capitalize on monetary gains. And since we've been talking about NFL dudes, might as well talk to you too. That's right. FanDuel has everything you need to capitalize on your monetary gains this coming season. But before you get to this coming season, the NFL action is not over. The playoffs are right around the corner here, but the regular season action is still available for you with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with 250 bones back in bonus bets if your first $5 hauler is a winner. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up your next big W. Is Tyreek Hill going to keep going off? Is Emmanuel Ogbah going to get over 1.5 sacks? Is Tylan Wallace going to make an emergence now that they have some issues kind of at wide receiver, and he's proven to be a dude and a dog every time he gets out on the field? FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players are going to score the next touchdown or how many points each team is going to score. It's more exhilarating than ever, especially with the playoffs right around the corner here. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com. Come today to join and get that $250 back in bonus bets if your first $5 hauler is a winner. Make every single moment matter more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. However, we'll round this thing out here fairly quickly because we got to talk about the broken mold. And I have talked about my frustrations in the recruiting industry with Mike Gundy and how he has a very strict set of rules and regulations and conditions that equal a quality recruit in his eyes coming to Stillwater, America. Now, you do want to do a good background check and make sure that guys come from certain specific, areas. One of those has always been a stable household with mom and dad in the picture for the most part, right? From an NIL perspective, We have some players that aren't exactly beating down the door because they financially are doing okay. Some of these things have been a limiting factor, in my personal opinion. Mike Gundy views if he views some semblance of a red flag, he's automatically out, typically without doing a major deep dive into potentially why that is what it is. When you're seeing some guys, I don't want to say that have come in with somewhat checkered past, but it is different than what we've typically recruited in the past. We've brought in some guys that that we don't typically bring in. And I think that a large portion of this is because of the staff turnover. I've said previously, it really feels like Mike Gundy is going to take more of a GM, CEO style of role now. He's going to be shaking hands, kissing babies, taking his helicopter, dropping it in the middle of 50-yard lines to go do more recruiting, to be more impressive, to put Oklahoma State more on the national level. From a recruiting branding, we need that. And I think that's going to be a massive part of his role. I also think that this stuff is an indication to me that Todd Grantham's going to do his own thing defensively, and Doug Meacham, for the most part, is going to do his own thing offensively as well. And that also means the acquisition of talent from different parts of the country that have played for different conferences and different styles that also bring in a little bit more of that swagger that we're missing. You need to have some guys that come in with some attitude and that are willing to help in the rebuild to turn that attitude into a reflection of the leadership. So I appreciate that the staff is doing more investigating. They're diving a little bit deeper instead of just the surface area to make a determination on this guy can come to Oklahoma State, keep his stuff together, make sure his grades are squared away, be on time, show up, and bust his hump. That's what we've needed. That's what we're missing. And then when you factor in all of the young guys that have been chomping at the bit for more opportunities combined, I think this is a really good sign of things to come for Oklahoma State moving forward. We have a lot to keep talking about, but I've got to get on a trip to Oklahoma, so we got to do a little bit before we get daddle on off of here. There's me not being able to talk again. And this is me also signing off and saying that's all for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike if you don't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you know what to do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. All righty, y'all. Later, my taters.